I'm going to be back up on Skype in about, it'll be probably 1 minute here. I'm in I'm back in restart, and we're hoping to keep going here.
All right.
Your Skype going up.
I've got you. I can hear you now, and I'll try to bring you back up on another one. If I get you on the conference call here on Skype, then you can hang this one up.
Skype is back up. I'm back up.
Okay, hang on a second.
Got it, and I'm answering now. I'm trying to answer.
All right. All right. I dropped you on that one. I've got you on this one. All right. We got you. My guest today is Gordon Duff, and Veterans Today editor. I even got a little bit of, just for your information, folks, Gordon Duff is a Marine veteran, Vietnam veteran, combat infantryman, senior editor at Veterans Today. His career has included extensive experience in international banking, along with such diverse areas as consulting on counterinsurgency, surveillance techniques, analysis, intelligence analysis, defense technology, and I don't know how much of a.
It means that I'm still working because kids are in school and all my friends are unemployed, and I'm the one who has the best line of crap to keep them all working, basically. But yeah, I'm still I'm still working. I still put in a 10-hour day of regular work.
You know, let me ask you about what's going on. I saw some articles about international Jewry on your site there. I haven't got a chance to go over that yet. I think that was. Well,
we had a Doug Henderson as a staff writer, columnist at VT, and he writes historical pieces starting with the Templars forward, which covers the issues of the Rothschild family, and he's stirring a lot of controversy. It's simply within the historical community because he does detailed research. Others do also, and they've got a club now that are fighting over this, which is fun. They're having that's what we're for, really. What scares me, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning here. They've been pounding next door since 7:30 in the morning. I work till usually 2 or 3 in the morning, and I get up in the morning and I would look for news, and you step in front of the computer. I've got it sitting in my servants' quarters for the servants I can't afford, by the way. The house is big enough, but there are no servants here, and there's nowhere that I trust to get any news at all. I go through my email. I've got intelligence agency people who give me pieces of what they learned during the day from mostly Europe or the Middle East. As for American guys, most of the special ops people are at another convention. As they get older, frankly, Clayton, all they're doing either all year long is they're either in Vegas or they're out in the Gulf fishing, which is what they're doing today. But they load up hotels, spend those retirement checks, and goof around a lot. I've got waiting to hear from Africa this morning, waiting to hear from Switzerland, where I'll get good financial information. But if I go into the news, I get these phony polls that everything is neck and neck here, or this guy's up 4 points one day and down 4 points the next day and whatever, and they just make it all up. Some of it has become, my favorite enemy is Huffington Post, the way they present news. the big stories of Huffington Post are, you can't believe what happened when her bra fell off. That's the story of the day. And at one time here, 10 days ago, we actually did a survey, and we went through every section, and 4 out of 10 stories in the title included the word naked. And I still use the AOL browser somewhat, although I will tell you it is primitive. Their search engine is horribly edited. A complaint I've got, you know, you and I are talking over Skype here. First of all, Skype is the most polluted imaginable system to talk on. It is entirely overheard, controlled, is capable of moving, as you may tell, you know, obnoxious files of varying kinds. Executables can be moved over Skype now. We should actually be using the crypto program if we had any sense, but I'd have to have sent you a key already. But I encrypt everything now. It's gotten down to that. I mean, anything. If I were to write my mother, who's currently dead, but you know, so is everyone else. A lot of them don't seem to stay dead. If you get the rumor I'm passing on here.
I'm really sorry to hear that. That means she voted for Obama, doesn't it?
She went for Reagan. I don't think she's been around for the Obama elections, actually.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, that's obviously she voted for Obama, right?
I'm voting for Obama. He's fighting with all the same people I fight with. The worst people in the military. Now, the military, we have an article about this, but probably about 20 years ago, they began infiltrating the service academies and the senior NCOs with a religious group called dispensationalists. It's a wild heresy of red state apocalypse freaks. Anyone wants to lecture on early Christianity, they have Americans have no idea what religions they belong to, but none of them are supported by anything that would be a gospel.
Well, that brings me to the article on Veterans Today that I wanted to talk about and highlight by Bob Johnson. And he's talking about Judaism being a threat to humanity, but he also said, like all of the revealed hearsay, man-made religion breaks the people of the world down to us versus them. In Christianity and Islam, the us are the believers and the them are the non-believers. In Judaism, this holds true to a point. However, in Judaism, much importance is placed on being an ethical, racial Jew, not merely a religious Jew. You know, I've said the Constitution, and actually the Bill of Rights, protects you so you can worship any way you want. You know, I mean, if you want to bang your head against the Wailing Wall, knock yourself out, I'll watch. You know, you want to get down on your hands and knees and stick your nose in the dirt, you know, your ass up in there, I'll try to keep the St. Bernard of you.
Well, Bob Johnson is us actually having a religious writer on board. We have several that are mainstream Christian. What we decided several years ago, a couple of things we've done. We have 62 publications that we run through Veterans Today. We have a second veterans-only publication that is anti-war people to a large extent, and we wall that off, but it's run by different editors. It has its own policies. It's politically different than Veterans Today. That's Veterans News Now. Veterans Today is mostly professional, other than intelligence personnel, senior military. It's authors and journalists. and we've recruited a serious group of writers who are unpaid, and we accept no advertising, frankly, because it doesn't cost much to run a website. These people constantly asking for money are people who simply can't make a living on their own. You know, which I'm picking on you here, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit.
Apparently it's getting increasingly hard to make a living, but on the military side, you know, we're mostly double dippers, either still working. We all have pensions of one kind or another. Almost all of us do. We have a few people here. What's disturbing, I guess, and the subject changes, we've got people here who are very, very capable, who really can't make a living, and these are, you know, they may be selling their books or whatever, but I was looking at Jim Fetzer the other day. Jim Fetzer's a retired college professor, and he chaired the Vancouver UFO 9/11 hearings, and if they were UFO, he'd be a millionaire. The UFO business, if you and I talked about UFOs today, we'd have all the auto companies would be financing us. But I look at his guests here, and he had people like, you know, like Webster Tarpley, for instance, who's on TV a fair amount, and you know, has a number of books in print, and Fetzer's income is about what I pay in taxes, and which still isn't bad, but he pays for airline tickets, he buys people's food, he pays their hotel rooms. So many people have no money, and yet in Washington there's this huge lie machine of, and I mean crazy people. I was talking yesterday with a group that wants to put together a third party, and they were approached by some senior people from the Bush and Obama cabinets, and some wealthy backers in Washington. They want to run a third party. They think that we have the populist answer that would, you know, carries the Ron Paul message, but we're tougher than Paul is, and that would be our criticism for Ron Paul. That when we showed up with the support for him enough to get him elected, he decided to move to the mainstream, and then when people started stealing from him, he went silent, and they stole the election from him and hid out like Al Gore did. We can't afford this anymore. And Ron Paul won the Republican nomination. He would have won the election, and instead he tended to either he was threatened or he quit so that he could get later support for his political extremist idiot son, and he's a total moron. But Paul is gone, and we can't wait another 4 years for a decent president. So we're given a choice here of a drug money launderer and total idiot. Romney's an absolute idiot. And then we can take on Obama, and nobody knows anything about Obama other than the fact that Israel hates him, and the dispensationalists in the military, who the rest of us hate him. So I guess if the people you hate someone, maybe they're okay. That's all we have to work on? I mean, the idea of moving inside Washington, and I was asked to take over a political movement there, and I tend to think of myself as not wanting to spend 4 years of my life, which may be the last 4 years of my life, doing this. They don't seem to understand, Clay, that the world isn't run from inside Washington. These are a bunch of rats in a maze stealing everything they can. They don't run anything. They think they run things. Washington runs nothing. They really aren't even the headquarters of the world's thieves. That's done out of Europe and Tel Aviv.
It's you know, I've got a little problem here with this whole system. This year we have put $1 billion into advertising for the Republicans or the Democrats, which I consider.
Oh no, it's 10 times that. Each party has spent $1 billion for the presidential election, but the drug cartels have bought school board elections, mayors, sheriff elections. They've bought judges across the U.S. They own probably 28 to 30 state governors, the drug cartels, and they've spent billions themselves. And then that isn't counting the soft money, and they call it corporate money. Well, most of the corporate money is laundered drug money too. Now, there's $10 billion in this election, and that's what draws all these maggots to Washington to dip their little beaks or suckers or whatever it is that they eat through into that drug money. Well, the drug money isn't just in Washington. It isn't just in the presidential election. It's absolutely everywhere, every election, especially where you are. You know, we've got the drug mafia. They own the entire state of, well, they've got Nevada, they've got Arizona, they've got a good portion of California. They own the entire state of Utah. They own Idaho. I can go up the eastern seaboard. They've got Florida. They've got North Carolina. They've got South Carolina. They've got they're ending up in the Northeast. They run well. They may or may not be running Wisconsin, but to a large extent they have Wisconsin. They've got the state government of Michigan. They've got Kansas, Nebraska. They've had Missouri for years. They've had Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky. These are entire southern Ohio. These areas are entirely run by the drug cartel. The United States, you know, they talk about being occupied by the Zionists. No, the U.S. The Zionists have been exceeded. The U.S. is run by the drug cartels.
Well, you know, that's the CIA, the Mossad. I mean, this is how I got on the CIA Mossad hit list, by blowing the whistle on Operation Watchtower. Colonel Edward P. Catolo, I don't know if you ever got to meet him, but Colonel Edward P. Catolo ran Operation Watchtower for George Bush, who, by the way, I've been finding a lot of links to George Bush being in Dallas and possibly working with Hunt and some other ones in the assassination of Kennedy. And well, that's who Romney's hanging out with. Romney's hanging out with the Bush boys.
Romney's been with the Bush boys since 1984. He's spent his life in the narcotics business, and it's and you know, there must be decent Mormons out there. I grew up in Michigan, and I have lived around Mormons all my life, and you know, some of them have been lifelong friends, except when they start talking about religion, and then my eyes go back in my head, you know. But other than that, they've been longtime friends. And Michigan is a heavily Mormon state, of course. But
kind of becoming a Muslim state, isn't it now? Dearborn.
Yeah,
I just saw an article.
Really, Dearborn is quite a successful story. You know, it's got 300,000 Muslims. It's a beautiful city, safe, peaceful, great restaurants, really a good place to go eat. Almost no crime. You know, Dearborn was a very upscale community. Would have gone into decay and has become as a Muslim community in Michigan. People who don't go there, I mean, I spend time there. Dearborn is very nice. You can walk safely anywhere in Dearborn anytime you want. Now, next to Dearborn, now you get there along one street goes from the Mexican town, they call it, that's down Verner, up to Michigan Avenue, and then down Michigan Avenue all the way to Telegraph, which is probably about a 9-mile drive. You go through a Mexican community and then the Islamic community. Well, both communities would have looked like Hiroshima, except the Mexicans took over one half, or Hispanic Americans, and the Muslims the other. Well, the issue with both is that both have new homes, nice lawns, low crime. They're the only places you can go to eat in Detroit safely, the only places you can go to shop, the only places where there are mowed lawns, where you can go out on Saturday night and see people with their families out on the sidewalk. The only places in Detroit are the Hispanic and Islamic areas. That's why I do my little multicultural thing. If you think that Muslims are such bad people, drive up to Dearborn. Go on a Saturday night, drive through Dearborn, drive up and down the street. Try to order something you don't like. Go into stores, go into their supermarkets and bakeries and meat stores. And we also have 800,000 Jews in Detroit. I will tell you, we don't have any problem with them either. We have a huge Chaldean Christian community from the Middle East. Huge. One of the largest in the country. And they have no crime. They all work. Detroit is Chaldean Christian, it's Jewish, it's Hispanic, it's Muslim, and those are the surviving areas in Detroit. And then we have an African American community that is divided among the very, very terrible areas, and people that have moved into middle class areas and are working and doing very well. Much of Detroit, I will tell you, I got off I-75 at 7 Mile Road about 4 weeks ago, heading up to Selfridge Air National Guard base to hit the commissary, you know, military retiree stuff. And I thought I'd driven into a zombie movie. It was every 1 out of 10 houses was still standing, and they were boarded up. There was fog coming out of the ground. I'm pretty sure I saw zombies. I'm not. Yeah, I think I saw zombies.
Now let me stop you right there, because I get the feeling, especially looking at this election, you know, with and go to Walmart. You know, what is this zombie thing? What are they programming this for? The television, the movie theaters, Hollywood is like swamped with zombies, and frankly, I mean, I get the feeling after I got out of the hospital after being drugged for 3 months for 3 broken ribs, maybe that's standard treatment, I thought everybody around me was crazy because I had been taken out of the flow, out of the mainstream, and started looking at the people around me, and they don't behave rationally, they don't think. It's are they the zombies? I mean, have they drugged them down to the floor?
The zombie thing, they call it we call it Romney here. I think it's a Romney thing, that you need to be a zombie to vote for Romney. That's an issue. And then
now Romney is controlled by the Mossad. I mean, he has an ex-Mossad agent running.
He's got Mossad controllers. He'll take us to war. He'll pump and dump the economy. He'll loot the banks again. He'll crash the economy. He'll rob the pension systems. You would have to, unless you've got the money to leave the country, which I've got, thank you very much, but unless you've got the money to leave the United States, we're at some point going to have to fight to get our country back. Now, this fighting to get the country back. We've got an election coming up. My choice is to vote for the least of two evils, and that's the choice here. And then we want to ask why we're choosing two evils. Well, the truth of it, of course, is that no citizen of the United States had anything to do with this political system. One of the things that you learn from living in this end of the country, we have trade unions here, and people are told that watch out for the unions, they're really evil. Well, here's what the unions have a frightening agenda, and that agenda is to control financial crime in government, to keep the police and courts under control so that everyday people can have a decent chance and not be arrested and jailed for nothing, to make sure that children have good schools and affordable medical care, to make sure that people who live off the work of others, typically by sending work overseas, by the way, but that they pay a fair share of taxes. That's the union agenda. I tend to not see a problem with it. I've belonged to trade unions. You know, I used to work in a grocery store, so I was RCIA. I worked for Bell Labs and belonged to the Communication Workers of America. That's long ago. I was a cop, which I'm trying to. It's apt to me. I think I belonged to then. I will admit that they seemed useless, but as far as helping workers. But without what we know up here in the Midwest, is that without unions, milk used to be made out of chalk, that factories used to dump their solvents, heavy metals into our drinking water. We look at the state of Michigan years ago, Vesical Chemical put in animal feed a fire retardant, polybrominated biphenol, PBB. It's in the body of every human being in Michigan. Has been for years. Anyone that had ever nursed as a child, for instance, or had eaten food, had ended up filled with a carcinogen as bad as Agent Orange because of Vesical Chemical, Dow Chemical, and 5 other companies that made Agent Orange knew they were spraying dioxin, a carcinogen, not only on the people of Vietnam, but they've probably killed 800,000 American soldiers. The average age of Vietnam veterans, when one checks these statistics, they lived 46 years. I'm somewhat older than that, and have not lived that 46 years without difficulty. I look at my other friends. I've got friends that have survived as many as 4 and 5 bouts of cancer. I was diagnosed with sarcoma in 1995. We have all been sick for years, many years, and including me. And I'm a pretty tough bugger, basically, but they killed off a generation of us. Gulf War illness, whatever was done to people in the Gulf, and that, and it could have been the anthrax vaccine, but
their vaccines, right? They almost killed me with their vaccines. And I find it's really disturbing to me, and I don't know why it doesn't bother more people, that our brothers that went to Vietnam, more of them have killed themselves since they got home.